Alright, we're getting further into the high poly now, and now we're going to go through and start adding our control edges. And you can see that I'm using the connect tool a lot here, and I'm constraining the movement of my edge flow and my edge loops here to actually edges, and that can be controlled up in part of the edit geometry function. And you'll see how it's already started to change, and you'll see that you can see how rounded it gets there. So I'll go ahead and smooth this out a little bit more. So now I'm starting to get the nice edge that I really been looking for, and I'll check it really quickly by showing the end result. And try to keep your edges spaced equally apart. You want to have basically the same smoothing across the whole model. And it takes a little bit to get used to, but once you get your good workflow down, you'll start to get a lot faster with this. This video is sped up a little bit. I don't work this fast, but for the sake of time and just being able to follow along, I speed the videos up a little bit. So let's see here. I mean, it's not the most prettiest geometry, but when I show the final result, it smooths out nicely, and it's working for what I need it to do. So don't get too hung up on making the most perfect looking edges and verts everywhere and neatly placed, and focus mainly on what it's going to look like in the end. You know, what's the end result, as that's the most important thing. You're only using the high poly to bake your normals from. So in that instance, you know, there will be some small artifacts you'll see once in a while, and you could spend all day fixing these, and sometimes in the end, once a texture is compressed, shrunk down, baked out, and everything else that we'll do to it, the artifacts might not even show up. And sometimes the artifacts might actually produce a nice result that you wouldn't have got from, you know, fixing them in the first place. So, you know, always be aware of that stuff and seeing what is worth your time and what is not. So we're gonna do the inset here, and this is where the glass is gonna sit, and this detail isn't necessarily needed, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it because if we had to do a broken version of this data pad, it'd be nice to have the glass broken out and maybe have some of the inner workings done, and seeing where the glass sits inside this wall panel. And I copied the faces going around the inside of the bezel, and basically just copied these out, extruded them, and this is how I created my screen. And it's gonna basically be a perfect fit for this. And you'll see that doesn't smooth very well, but it's a flat surface, so it's gonna work for us. We don't have to worry about it too much. So we'll go ahead and we'll insert that back in there, and our screen's done. So I mean, it was that simple. You could essentially use just a flat plane there, and it wouldn't have made any difference at all. So, you know, it all depends on how you want to work. But that will conclude that part of the video, and we'll move on to the next part, and we'll get working on those side details and detailing this thing up and try to finish it off so we can move on to the low poly and on the textures.